Lawmakers continue to negotiate a new debt limit as we inch closer to a possible default. And a new report out from Zillow shows that if a default does happen, the housing market would slip into a deep freeze. The popular online real estate company says that mortgage rates could increase by 8% in September. And this is on top of mortgage rates, which doubled last year. Zillow says that means home sales could decrease by as much as 23%. Now, a default seems unlikely at this point, but the housing market has been struggling ever since the pandemic, and things could only get worse if lawmakers don't come to an agreement soon. Kathleen Howley joins us now live. She's a Forbes senior contributor, also a former Bloomberg senior reporter, where she earned the Loeb Award. Kathleen, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So, Kathleen, obviously we are talking about a doomsday scenario here because there is word that a deal will be reached on the debt ceiling before June 1st. But let's just say that there's no compromise, there's no deal. What would happen to the housing market if the U.S. defaults on its debt?
Zillow predicted last week that mortgage rates would go up by 2 percentage points, so it would put it north of 8%. And what would happen then, of course, is that home sales would fall because people are qualified for their mortgage on their debt-to-income ratio, the lenders call it. That means, like, here's the amount that you earn every month. What would your mortgage payment be, and can you afford that? So when rates go up, that payment goes up, and fewer people qualify for a mortgage, and that would hit home sales.
Now, just so people understand at home in plain English, can you explain how the debt limit is tied to the housing market and why it would impact the housing market so directly?
So there's no, U.S. Department of Mortgage Rates. That does not exist. The mortgage rates are set by investors in the bond markets because almost all home loans end up in bonds that are sold to investors, and they decide what the mortgage rates are by the yields that they're willing to accept, the returns on their bonds. And it typically tracks the 10-year Treasury. What we're seeing right now is there's already been an impact because we're seeing that difference widening as the investors are demanding a risk premium. The debt default probably isn't going to happen, but they're already getting nervous. So we're already seeing rates higher than they should be right now. They were higher in the last 6 to 8 to 10 months because of inflation. That, again, that's something bond investors don't like. So they were demanding, higher returns, which result in higher mortgage rates. Now they're starting to say, I'm not comfortable with getting so close to breaking through the debt ceiling, and we're seeing rates higher. They really would have fallen more than they have at the present day. Right now, they're currently about 6.4% average for 30-year fixed, according to Freddie Mac. And if it weren't for this, risk of breaking through the debt ceiling, they would be lower. I just want to point out the debt ceiling is we already incurred the spending. So, if I say, well, I spent too much last month, now I'm not going to pay my credit card bill, that's kind of where we're at. We're not talking about future spending. We're talking about paying the bills for past spending. Right,
which is why we're saying the U.S. would be defaulting on its debt because it's yes, money that's already been spent. So the way that I understand it is home buyers obviously would be impacted because mortgage rates would jump, but this would also impact existing homeowners. How so?
Well, existing homeowners, if they want to get a home equity line of credit to tap into some of that record high equity we've seen, with home prices rising at a record pace during the pandemic, that could cost more. They would also be impacted because it would affect the overall economy. Yesterday, the Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen called it a looming catastrophe, a financial catastrophe. All economists agree that we would most likely plunge into a recession. We would see a doubling or tripling of the current unemployment rate, which right now is in the 3s. And potentially 8 million people or more losing their jobs. These are pretty even forecasts across the board with economists.
So, question for you, Kathleen: has the market rebounded to pre-pandemic levels yet? I know that there's a new Gallup poll out that shows that only 21% of Americans believe that this is a good time right now to buy a home. What would it take to make Americans more confident when it comes to the housing market?
So people still have in their memories, and it wasn't that long ago, the 2008 financial crisis that was caused by subprime lending, unregulated, very risky products. And of course, that's looming. That's kind of a black cloud over some people's head. They remember what happened back then. But what is different now, though, is we have an extreme shortage of properties on the market, and that's what's keeping it from being a potential disaster for the housing market. Fewer people would be able to buy homes, but Zillow is predicting perhaps a 5% drop in the median U.S. home price in some areas. They're not predicting what we saw back in 2008 with prices, just plummeting, off the cliff. Nothing like that. But that's because we have such a shortage of available properties. As anybody who has looked for a home knows, we're still near record lows in the supply of homes for sale, and to a great degree, that's protecting the value of all homes.
And I have to let you go, but if you had to make a prediction, even if the U.S. doesn't default on its debt, do you predict that the market will continue to soften?
I think mortgage rates, if we get past this, I think mortgage rates will continue to inch downward. And that's what all the major housing forecasters are saying. And that is every time rates go lower, it qualifies more people to be able to get a mortgage. And that's going to support home demand. Because of the shortage, I think it is going to protect at least the housing side of the economy, which is a big part of the economy.
All right, Kathleen Howley from Forbes, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. We appreciate it. And a quick note right here, straight ahead at 3 p.m. Eastern, Nadia Evangelou will be joining us. She's with the National Association of Retailers. We're going to be taking a closer look at the latest housing numbers to come out. Now, in the meantime, new data out from the National Association of Realtors shows that single women are outpacing single men as home buyers, continuing a trend that started way back in 1981. Alicia Smith with Scripps News Detroit spoke with a new home buyer and some real estate experts about why the trend is still on the rise. And she also has some tips for single women in the market for a new home.
This charming brick house in the Bagley community in Northwest Detroit will soon be Elizabeth Johnson's new home. What about this house made you fall in love with it?
It was almost like I recognized it. That's kind of the feeling it had.
The 36-year-old educator who once called Clawson home is moving to Detroit after 2 years in Tampa. What made you decide now is the right time to buy a home?
I had a one-bedroom apartment, and the rent after the first year, my rent went up about 40%. And I live on a single income, so it wasn't even an option.
So you're actually paying less for your housing now as a homeowner than when you were renting?
Absolutely.
By about $600 a month.
Hello, Alicia.
Hey, Eric.
How are you?
Is this the condo?
This is it.
Eric Miller is a realtor who currently has one offer from a single woman for this 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo in Farmington Hills. How many single female homebuyers are you seeing these days?
Well, more than I ever have. Single females, I think, are starting to realize that this is an investment for them and for their future.
Why do you think you're seeing this trend?
I think there's a variety of reasons. I think first and foremost, home means a lot to women. They want to be safe and secure.
Jeanette Schneider, president of RE/MAX of Southeastern Michigan, says the second reason is the gender pay gap.
Women have said this is a way to kind of level the playing field. If I can start to build wealth and I can own a home, that puts me on a track to build some wealth.
Schneider says before 1974, females could not get a mortgage or a loan on their own. They had to have a cosigner. But since 1981, she says females have been outpacing men in buying homes. So if you're a woman wanting to buy your first home,
first is going to be really pay attention to the budget.
Schneider says make sure you can comfortably afford your mortgage payment plus all your other expenses. And second, start a rainy day fund to pay for unexpected repairs or emergencies. Elizabeth Johnson's still processing that her monthly mortgage will be less than her previous monthly rent.
It feels fantastic, but it also is a relief.
In Detroit, I'm Alicia Smith reporting.
Coming up next, a story of resilience and hope. We're going to introduce you to a woman who overcame a life of violence and is now advocating for those who face similar challenges. That's next.
Hi, I'm new to Medicare. How do I know if I'm eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan?
Great question, Claudia. If you're on Medicaid, newly eligible for Medicare, losing coverage, or moving, call now to see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan. Just call 800-571-0138.
I'm already on Medicare. Don't all Medicare plans have the same benefits?
No, John, they don't. Certain beneficiaries may qualify based on income verification to add up to $164 back to their Social Security check every month. Our team of licensed insurance agents are standing by to see if you qualify for a plan with additional coverage and benefits. Call the number on your screen to check your eligibility to enroll. Just call 800-571-0138.
I didn't know there were plans available in my area with additional benefits.
Yes, Martha, there is. Medicare Advantage plans offer all the benefits of original Medicare, plus additional benefits. And with a Medicare Advantage plan, you have access to a network of doctors and specialists. Call the number on your screen to check your eligibility to enroll. Just call 800-571-0138.
I'm on a fixed income, and I want a plan that fits my monthly budget.
Well, Rick, did you know that with Original Medicare, there's no limit for what you pay out of pocket for the year? With Medicare Advantage, plans have a yearly limit, and once you reach that limit, you pay nothing. If you're on Medicaid, newly eligible for Medicare, losing coverage, or moving, call now to see if you're eligible to enroll in a Medicare Advantage plan, even if you called last year. Just call 800-571-0138.
I don't want to worry about any unexpected medical costs. I'm going to call now.
That's great, Linda. There's no obligation to enroll. The call and Medicare benefits review are free. Just call 800-571-0138. That's 800-571-0138. This is a paid advertisement for legal services. This is an important message for any woman who has ever had ovarian cancer. If you've used talcum or baby powder, you may be entitled to an $8.9 billion settlement. If you or a loved one have been diagnosed with ovarian cancer and have used a talcum-based powder, a special hotline has been established to see if you qualify. Call now for a free case evaluation. Just call 800-421-0451. A large manufacturer was recently court-ordered to pay $8.9 billion to women diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Studies have shown that women who have long-term use of talcum products such as baby powder may have an increased risk of contracting ovarian cancer. The company knew the risk and knowingly targeted women and their babies. Call now to find out if you or loved ones qualify for significant compensation. You pay $0 unless you win. The consultation is free and there is no risk to you. Don't wait. Just call 800-421-0451 now. That's 800-421-0451.
Sure, you'll teach her how to drive a car, then use Greenlight to power her independence with crash detection with 911 dispatch, family location sharing, and emergency SOS alerts. Invest in your best investment with Greenlight.
When Lila was ready to sell her ring, she sent it to Worthy, where they took care of everything and auctioned it on her terms. Then, Worthy sent Lila her money. You're worthy of more. Get started at worthy.com.
Well, our Scripps News series, The Truth About Crime, continues today with the story of a woman who went from crime victim to crime advocate. Selena Meadows grew up around violence, and as an adult, she found herself in a violent relationship that threatened her child's life. Meadows is now sharing her journey and what drives her work today. Take a look.
My name is Selena Meadows, the Arizona statewide manager for CSSJ, and that is Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, South Phoenix to be exact. When I was younger, it was high concentration of crime, gun violence, to the point where it was like normalized for us to sleep on the floor many nights, just crawl to the restroom, oh, they're shooting in, or have the feeling of knowing, okay, well, tonight's gonna be a drive-by because it's the weekend, and things like that. It wasn't safe. And then even just emotionally, it wasn't safe. As a kid, like you see handoffs and different things, you see drug deals all the time. It was like a liquor store and then like a Chinese food place. I remember we'd be so excited because like, oh, here you go with Daddy, and we get a sucker. We remember these charm suckers. There was a ombre suckers. And so much of these things going around. You see drug deals right in front of you, but it was like, that was what it was. It was something that we all kind of learned to weirdly adapt to. We lived in that neighborhood until I was 14. We were actually displaced by gun violence. It got a little too much to the point my parents were like, okay, we can't live here. So we were homeless for a while. We kind of bounced around with family. Specifically in the city of Phoenix, my family has lost about 5 family members to crime. My cousin was murdered. I was 10, he was 14. My family, I still see the residual, and they're kind of like the reason why I'm really advocating for trauma recovery centers in a way that I still see the effects that made so many years later. I remember in our house, like even just like playing with water guns. My mom in particular was like, no, these are not in the house. It's to the space where everyone's kind of like a debilitating type of fear in some ways. Like, oh no, you're not going to do this, and you're not going to do that, and you're not going to do this. It starts to become more obvious barriers to what we were allowed to do. And that's when it starts to create even more fear. It's like, oh, well, honestly, just from a child's standpoint, starts to think, oh, well, this could happen to me. I was married for 8 years, but we were together for 12. It wasn't until after the relationship with my ex-husband that I realized how far kindness can be exploited and love can be weaponized. I would say just around our first child. That's when it was like the reality hit that this is not what I think I felt that I thought it was. And that's when actually the physical abuse started. The first time it happened, it was a weird level of shame for myself. Like I was like, this is something for the first time ever I feel like I'm not sure if I can bring to my family. I feared for my life. He utilized, I feel like, the greatest weapon against anyone, and that was the threat of violence to a child. After escaping, the children and I were in active hiding for about 2 years. Even though we were considered a very high-risk case, it then took us 4 months to get into a DV shelter. I think people don't realize, too, once people were in a certain space of wanting to get out, by that time, the manipulation and the things that are set up for them are in a space of danger that you probably can't even comprehend. We don't have a system that supports getting out or staying out. We're getting better, but it's still a lot of work that needs to be done. I am now part of Crime Survivors for Safety and Justice. Our mission is to, I guess you say, interrupt the cycles of trauma and crime.
And you could join us tonight for a Scripps News special. Our Del Walters will be hosting a live conversation on the truth about crime with eye-opening insight from a panel of special guests. Again, join us tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, right here on Scripps News. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Kirk Kaiser, and did you know the average funeral costs around $10,000? And if you don't have enough insurance to cover funeral costs, credit card debt, and other expenses, your family is going to get stuck with the bill. Don't let that happen. Call right now. And if you're over 50, you can get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance, and your acceptance is guaranteed. That's right. If you're over 50, you can't be turned down for this insurance, regardless of your health. Plus, there's no medical exam and no health questions. Your rate will never go up. Your coverage will never go down. And rates start as low as $5 a week. Your coverage begins as soon as your application is received. Don't wait until it's too late.
Just call 800-760-7793.
Coverage is guaranteed regardless of your health and cannot be canceled without your approval. Don't leave your family with a huge bill for your funeral. With one fast and easy call, get up to $30,000 in affordable life insurance to help cover funeral expenses and credit card debt, and maybe even leave something for your kids and your grandkids. Remember, if you're over 50, you can't be turned down, regardless of your health. There's no medical exam and no health questions. Best of all, your rates start as low as $5 a week, and your rate will never increase. Nothing is more important than family. So don't leave them with a lot of bills to pay when you're gone. Don't leave your family with a lot of bills to pay for your funeral. Call right now. Acceptance is guaranteed. Call right now.
Call now. Call 800-760-7793. That's 800-760-7793.
Will you pause it real quick? Just sold the car to Carvana.
What?
All I had to do was answer a couple of questions and got a real offer in seconds. Then they just picked up the car and paid me right on the spot.
Sell your car at Carvana.com today.
I don't get paid until next week.
I got you. I'm Dave, and I can spot you up to $500 of your future money instantly.
Up to $500 instantly? What else is in my future?
A new couch. Only.
Get up to $500 instantly with Dave.
At Rue La La, feel like $1 million without paying the price. Seize the deals on top names before they're gone. Get in to never miss out. Shop RueLaLa.com today.
Local, national, and worldwide headlines. Breaking down the day's biggest stories with live reporting from around the globe.
I'm Del Walters, and this is your Evening Debrief.
Live tonight, starting at 6/5 Central, only on Scripps News.
When you put in the work, you get results. It's a viral message that a recent law school grad's been sharing. Jeff Morgan shows us.
Overcome with emotion and surrounded by his family, Matthew Graham nervously typed away looking for that email. Then he saw the key word. Graham's 309 is considered an excellent score for the bar, somewhere in the 94th percentile of test takers.
Studying for the law for the bar exam is just a difficult experience. 500 hours, 9 weeks. If you fail, you have to take it again in 6 months. All of that just crumbing in on me.
For the 29-year-old from Baltimore, getting to this point took countless hours of studying and hard work.
So when I saw that congratulations, it was just an out-of-body experience. It was just happiness, joy. I knew that I can provide for my family now.
Graham graduated 6 months early, so he's already ahead of the game and already has a plan after graduating.
Litigation associate attorney coming up as of May 25th. I get sworn in next week.
His message to people going through the struggle right now:
just keep going. I was an evening student. I worked during the day. I went to school at night. Wake up 7 a.m. saying goodbye to your wife, not seeing her until 10 o'clock. It's sacrifice. You put in the work, you will get the results.
The euphoric feeling of finding out all that hard work paid off. In Baltimore, Jeff Morgan.
Congratulations to him. I'm Veronica De La Cruz. Don't go far because Lauren Magrino is up next.